Welcome to EP Daily, coming to you from the heart of Toronto. Today on the show, we've got some great game reveals in the rundown.
And then Thor takes us into the heart of the sea.
Say it, Skid! Say it!
Plus, Garfield gets caught in the act in our latest classic cartridge review. Also coming up, I wrestle a bear in my solo review of The Revenant. We head back in time to Fan Expo 2010 and much more today on EP Daily. Brought to you by EB Games. I'm your host, Victor Lucas, bringing you the latest in everything cool every single day. And guess what? There are many, many happy days headed our way, especially if you're into video games. Here's your rundown. Loads of big games were announced over the last few days, and here are some of the ones that we're most excited about. First up, Batman. The Walking Dead developer Telltale Games is making a new adventure starring the best superhero of all time. Yeah, I said it. Not too much has been unmasked, but the game promises to showcase the duality of Bruce Wayne and Batman like never before. The first episode will launch sometime in 2016. Telltale is also working on The Walking Dead Michonne, a 3-episode spin-off starting in February. The hugely popular car soccer game Rocket League will make its long-awaited Xbox One debut in February. Unlike the PS4 version, there will not be cross-platform multiplayer with the PC, which is a little weird. Hopefully a Wii U port hits the field soon. Here's something many gamers are going psycho over. Adventure game guru Tim Schafer is making a sequel to his cult classic Psychonauts. Like his recent game, Broken Age, Psychonauts 2 is relying on crowdfunding to get made. Schafer and his team are also making Psychonauts Rhombus of Ruin, a spin-off for virtual reality devices. Speaking of cult classics, Japanese animation house Studio Ghibli is teaming up with Level 5 for Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom, a sequel to their 2010 game. Finally, Wii U gamers can unleash their creativity in Minecraft, which is finally coming to the console on December 17th. Apparently, Microsoft is making good on the promise they made not to cut off rival platforms when they bought the franchise a year ago. Here to help me talk about all of these big game releases is my big game-loving pal, Jose Sanchez. What are you most excited about for, Batman?
Oh, okay,
Batman?
Fine.
Batman?
Fine.
Batman from Telltale
I'm obviously
Games?
most excited
Yes.
for Batman.
Yeah.
What other games are there coming out? There's nothing else.
Actually, I'm surprised by Ni no Kuni 2, but apparently there's enough of a fan base for it.
I feel like that's a big trend in gaming, is to bring back those games that maybe weren't as popular as they should have been back in the day, and try to give them a new life. And hopefully they're hoping the same thing for Ni no Kuni 2.
Well, you're describing Psychonauts 2, which is unbelievable. They have a whole promotion on that FIG website, which is the new crowdfunding program, but it actually lets you be an investor in the game, which is kind of weird because everybody that invests in the game actually gets a chance to get money back if the game is successful.
They get a piece of the game.
That's pretty cool. Yes, and also there's a lot of stuff happening in VR. The Psychonauts VR game is coming.
Lots of Ruin.
Yeah, lots of other announcements that came out of the recent PSX. I know, Res
VR.
And awesome to see the hits out there like Rocket League and Minecraft indie hits sliding over onto more platforms. I think Minecraft on Wii U is like, that's a match made in heaven right there.
That should have been made many, many moons ago,
Yes,
though.
I know.
You would think like something like the Wii U would have been a perfect platform for Minecraft, where you got all this ability to do all this stuff with the gamepad.
The weirdest thing was to see Microsoft tweet that they were bringing their game to the Nintendo Wii U. That blew my mind.
You mentioned it a couple of days ago that we need this synchronicity in the games industry where there's not this fighting and feuding and which console is better. Let's get together. Let's just make this one happy video gaming family. Well, and this is a step in the right direction.
This is the idea of expanding games to more people, you know, and keeping shops like that one very, very busy in the future.
Halo 6 Wii U, it's coming.
Yeah, lots of really cool games to be excited about. But right now we got to talk about a movie. Are you one of those fearless filmgoers that likes to go through excruciating punishment when you go see a movie? Well, I got one for you. It's called The Revenant. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy. It's directed by Alejandro Inarritu, who did Birdman not too long ago, and we love that movie. This has a lot of that same kind of unbelievable camera technique where we are on a single camera tracking shot as characters are being chased and arrows are flying overhead. It's really a tale about survival. DiCaprio plays a character named Glass, and he is not really well received by everybody around him in his regiment who's out tracking furs and stuff. And he's got danger on all sides, including a vicious bear attack. All kinds of horrendous stuff happens to him throughout this movie, but he's the star, so you know he kind of endures and perseveres. And it's the story of that perseverance that is absolutely remarkable.
The proper thing to do would be to finish him off quick. needs to be cared for as long as necessary. I understand.
This is a gorgeous, gorgeous film. It's shot in Canadian wilderness, and I don't think I've ever seen it look this incredible on screen before. You are absolutely transported. You're going to be squirming in your seat. It's a powerful movie. It goes on a little long, but I think the payoff is worth it. Tom Hardy plays a character that's working with DiCaprio but doesn't trust him and his ability to track through the forest and guide the other team members that are all around them. They get attacked by a group of Native Americans. There's all kinds of bloodshed. Everybody runs for the hills. There's a lot of backstabbing and betrayals, people trying to reclaim some of the money and some of the pelts and things like that that have been lost along the way.
All I had was my boy. And he took him from me, you understand?
There's white water sequences, lots of being buried in snowfall. There's some cool sort of mystical elements throughout this movie as well. And I think this is going to stand as one of the most incredible and harrowing Westerns of all time. The Revenant gets a 9.5 out of 10 from me.
After the break, we are heading into the heart of the sea.
The men needed testing.
You send them into a storm?
That
Was unlucky. No, it was bad seamanship.
This episode of EP Daily is brought to you by Collective Minds, the makers of the PS4 Cool and Charge stand and the Xbox One Media Hub, available at EB Games.
With our combined strength, we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy.
I'll never join you!
Hey everyone, I'm Daniel Wu, star of Into the Badlands. Star Wars. I had very fond memories of Star Wars because I remember watching Empire Strikes Back. I was a very little kid, and to see the lead character get his hand chopped off and lose and not win in the end was like this crazy thing in my world. Because the good guys always win, especially when I was a kid watching, Disney movies and stuff like that. So it really changed how I looked at film from that point on, and actually influenced how I act Into the Badlands.
Thanks, Daniel Wu. If you're into the Badlands as much as I am, then you're going to be into Star Wars as much as Scott is.
Yeah, I love Daniel Wu, and it was nice to see that from him. But now it's time to move on to our old friend, Ron Howard. He's got the Moby Dick book turned into a movie called In the Heart of the Sea. Take a look at this. Avast, ye mateys! Vic and I went to the movies. We saw the seafaring epic.
No pirates in this one.
No pirates, but there is a lot of sailing and giant boats. It's In the Heart of the Sea, directed by our old friend, Ron Howard.
Can he be our old friend?
Ron is definitely our old friend, and it stars our old friend, Chris Hemsworth, who also sometimes moonlights as Thor.
And the best thing for both of us would be to work all hours God sends us. Fill this ship with oil and be home inside a year and rid of one another as quickly as possible.
He was really convincing his first mate, Chase, in this movie, working with a captain that he's not getting along with, Captain Pollard, as they go whale hunting and they encounter this great white whale that is incredibly antagonistic and will have none of this whaling that is happening on the sea.
I love this story. It's basically the true story behind Herman Melville's experience. It's the story that he learned that inspired him to write Moby Dick.
Right.
There are two storylines in this movie. One takes place in the present tense in the 19th century, and the other one takes place a little bit earlier. And in the present tense time, you get Brendan Gleeson, who's playing an aged man who's a drunk now. He lives with Lady Stark from the Game of Thrones series. And he tells his story to Herman Melville, who's played by the guy
Ben
who plays
Whishaw.
Ben Whishaw.
He's Q in the Bond series, and he's become a very, very comforting face, I find, in a lot of movies. And I think he should have even a bigger career than he's already having. He's a terrific actor.
But this bouncing back and forth between the two storylines, adding in the 3D glasses that I was wearing, which darkens the whole experience, really made me feel disconnected and far away from the movie. Yeah, I felt like I was on the outside looking in. I didn't like the bouncing back and forth. I thought we'd get a little bit at the beginning when we saw the old guy. We'd get a little bit at the end. I would have been fine with that. Yeah. But the going back and forth just was too jarring for me.
I didn't mind that. I also didn't mind the different take on the camera techniques with 3D. There's a lot of macro type shots, lots of super close-up type shots where where we're looking through bottles and things like that. And it's not this sort of grand vision in your face kind of 3D.
But it's pointless 3D.
But I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I don't want to have a thing that I'm fighting with as soon as I sit down.
I like the artistic kind of quality with that, but I think one of the things that does take you out of the movie is, even though it's beautiful, is all the CG work in this. Now, obviously, they couldn't have actors trying to go out and be real whalers and put them on boats and give them harpoons and go at it, you know, but it does kind of take you out of the adventure, I think, when you just know that they're on green screen or they're surrounded by all kinds of safety stuff to paint in the rest of the imagery. Now, the imagery is beautiful. It's a staggeringly beautiful movie. The whale stuff, following the whale, sort of getting a sense of why the whale is revengeful. I liked all of that. And I even liked the shipwreck sequence when they're trying to figure out how they're going to survive. And then, you know, they go through a lot of really harsh stuff in this movie. And I thought all of that was really well handled as well.
The movie does go in an unexpected direction. I thought it would be more of a traditional kind of seafaring Jaws type thing where you got the guy who, you know, it's always a class struggle, and you got the working class guy who knows more than the guy who somehow got promoted over him. Yeah. And then, you know, all of that stuff is not as interesting as I wanted it to be, and I felt like there was a lot of opportunity that kind of got left on the table here. I feel like there's a better movie that Ron Howard didn't make here. I also had a little bit of a problem with Chris Hemsworth's character. I feel like this is from a hero vending machine. I've seen this guy before. He always does the right thing. He's always the smartest guy. It's just not that interesting. I just needed more reality, more authenticity, more intimacy with this experience.
Say you're scared! Say it!
I think it's definitely worth seeing, and it's a beautiful movie, but you're right, it does need a little more of that edge. What are you going to give In the Heart of the Sea?
5 out of 10, Vic.
Just a 5.
Yeah, where are you going?
I'm going to a 7.5. I thought it was pretty solid.
That was a whale of a tale. And by the way, here is a miniature version of the whale that they actually used in the movie. So there you go, a little movie trivia for you.
I like this beer as much as I love EP. We are celebrating 25 years in 25 days, and we're going way back to season 20 and the 2010 Fan Expo right here in Toronto.
Way back.
Fan Expo is a huge annual convention held right here in Toronto, and I've been coming to this thing every single year. And this year I actually get to attend as a guest as well as a reporter.
All right. Security.
I'm chatting with James. He's one of the event organizers. James, for those people who may not know what Fan Expo is, what is this event all about?
Well, Fan Expo Canada is the 16th annual celebration of all things pop culture, whether it's comic books, anime, science fiction, gaming, horror movies. It's all here down at the Metro Toronto Convention Centre.
James, there are a lot of conventions throughout North America, Fan Expo obviously being the biggest one in Canada. What sets it apart from all the other conventions?
Well, basically, we didn't have an initial strategy. We started out as a little comic book show, but as we recognized trends in the market, we put those pieces together to give fans of any sort an event to go to, a reliable event every year at the same time that they can look forward to. What's happened over the years is we've brought different celebrities in. We've realized, well, first of all, when we invite these guys, that they have their fan base that really wants to meet them. Now, when I say meet, they don't want him or her behind a closed glass cage kind of thing. They want to get right up, shake their hand, take a photo with them, get an autograph, and then, of course, hear them speak.
I like Batman, and I like his plane.
I'm hanging out with Randolph Scott.
There you go.
Or you could call him Ernest Borgnine, which I shall. Ernest, what brings you to Fan Expo?
Are you kidding? Look at this. This is amazing, isn't it? I've never seen anything like it in my life. What a pleasure it is to see all kinds of people meeting old fans, you know what I mean? And they come up wide-eyed and they're saying, my goodness, you made this, you made that. And yes, that's right. It's just amazing.
I've been up here a couple of times before. Last time was about 10 years ago. And it was big, but not this big. It seems like it's getting like Comic-Con in San Diego now.
It's one of the best Comic-Cons I've ever been to. The people are so nice, so polite, so enthusiastic. Everything is well arranged. It's just been a pleasure to be here.
This is a great convention because it's crowded but not crazy frenzied like Comic-Con where people are like shoving you. So it's a really good pace. It has a really nice mixture of independent people and corporations, which I like because then you get the best of all worlds. You get all the new technology and you get all the handcrafted stuff that people stop you on the street saying, where'd you get that?
It's pretty amazing. I understand this particular expo is growing exponentially, and you feel it. There's really a lot of people here, and it's fun.
It's pretty great. It's pretty overwhelming. It's a huge crowd and lots of booths, and lots of fan support, which is really cool.
I'm just here to say thank you. I'm here to meet as many people face to face as possible. Gives me so much energy and really makes me feel loved to be here. So it's always a good place to recharge your batteries.
This is who you do these movies for. And this is a great place for them to come and express themselves sometimes in some wonderful costumes that they make. And I wear costumes for a living. This is a place for them to come and sort of let that part of them hang out a bit, you know, and express themselves.
That's just a quick overview of what Fan Expo is all about. If you missed it this year, don't worry, it's going to be happening next year, and hopefully I'll see you there.
You know, it's nice to see Stan Lee making an appearance on EP Daily the same way he makes an appearance in every Marvel movie.
Excelsior! And coming up after the break, we've got a classic cartridge review of Garfield, Caught in the Act.
You're amazing, Stan.
This episode of EP Daily is brought to you by Collective Minds, the makers of the PS4 Cool and Charge stand and the Xbox One Media Hub, available at EB Games.
Welcome back to EP. We are still here in Toronto celebrating all things games and enjoying each other's company.
Oh, that's right. Well, we're a little bit cold, are we not? You're not bundled properly. This is Canada, Jose. It's Canada. We're gonna go now to our classic cartridge review. This is Garfield, Caught in the Act.
Is there gonna be lasagna?
Yes.
It's classic cartridge time once again, and today we are going back into the Genesis archive. This is Garfield, Caught in the Act. Yep. This is the story of a cat and his dog Odie. Is that right? Is that the dog's name?
Yep.
I was a huge Garfield fan as a kid. I was not a huge Genesis fan, which makes me think you did this on purpose, Victor Lucas. You know, I'm a Super Nintendo guy all the way.
I'm more of a Super Nintendo guy as well, but I've had this cartridge in my collection, and it was always an intriguing game for me, and it was probably because of one particular level. It's called Casablanca, and what they did with this level is they put Garfield in all of his orange fur glory into a black and white level, and I always thought that was an ingenious way to kind of create a new kind of look for a platformer. And you know, Garfield worked as a comic strip for a very long time because it was a very smart, working on multiple levels of intelligence and comedy all the way through. This was a sarcastic cat that always got into trouble and found his way to get out of it, and that's kind of what the video game tries to emulate and replicate.
You know, the thing that really stands out here, and I was kind of surprised to discover this because I'm not a Genesis fan, I admit. This game looks terrific. Like, it looks fantastic, and I kind of can't believe that the Genesis was capable of making games that looked this good.
Well, and this was from Sega themselves, and they did make some great looking games. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog was always a beautiful game in 2D, and they were able to create the cartoony look of stuff, so it was cool to see games like this and Earthworm Jim, where cartoon Saturday morning cartoon kind of animation was approached. It never quite got there, and this isn't as good as the best stuff that hit the Genesis either, but it's pretty darn solid. There are some glitches, there are some collision detection issues, some of the levels are a little bit too challenging. I think the standout level still, when I play it again, is absolutely the Casablanca level.
You just like saying Casablanca,
well,
I know.
And I like the jazzy sort of music, and I like that there's like a whole art asset kind of sweeping change per level like that. That was always kind of the big hook when you're playing video games back then, was like, what am I going to see now? Where are you going to take me to now?
Am I going to see something I've never seen before? And you know, the other game I can't help but conjure this from having played this is Beanox. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, which did the same thing, very similar concept. Took Spider-Man through a lot of different eras in comic book history, in Spider-Man history. I mean, that seems to be what's happening with these classic carts for me. Makes me want to go and play games that are similar to this, or games that may have inspired games in the future that we've appreciated.
Well, this is why we're doing this segment. I want to have the discussion about the relevancy of titles like this. This isn't one that I would immediately rush out to go and get, but it was fun to venture back into Garfield Land. I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10.
I think it's fun for one night. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Oh, that Garfield. Will his hijinks never end?
Oh, man. We'll find out after the break with your Twitter question of the day.
I hope it has something to do with lasagna.
If you want more EP, go to our website, epn.tv, for bonus content and full episodes. We're also on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to EP Daily. It's time now for our Twitter question of the day, the best part of every episode. Today's question comes from our old friend Josh Lannon. He is at JLand77.
That 76 must have been taken.
76 taken. JLand says, which lightsaber battle of the entire Star Wars saga do you like the most? Now, looking at the Star Wars saga.
All three movies.
No, all three movies. That's it. We're not counting the prequels. Those movies do not technically exist for me or for you. So we're talking about two battles primarily. We're talking about the battle between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. We know how that one ended.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker. Which one would you pick, my friend?
Well, it's tough because Luke and Vader had two lightsaber battles, really, and one
and then another
lost
one
a hand.
Yeah.
I would say that one's probably my favorite because you weren't expecting Darth to win.
Yeah.
And he won. And he also cut off Luke Skywalker's hand, and that sucks.
I think as a kid, seeing Darth Vader fighting with that old man, and then the old man just giving up so quickly.
Why
and then
though?
He stands there.
Where did he go?
Well, he had to turn into a ghost.
But why?
Anyway.
I never got that. I never understood that.
We're spoiling it for you guys. And, that's it for today's episode of EP Daily. But tune in tomorrow. Here's a taste of what's coming. Thanks for watching, everybody.
EP would like to thank its sponsors, Nintendo, Xbox. EP's mobile coverage is brought to you by Gameloft, makers of Asphalt 8 Airborne, which you can play on your Android or iOS device for free right now.
Nowadays, people are looking to travel into space. So before we start talking about how they're going to do that, let's talk about the origins of just regular commercial flight.
It started a little less than 100 years ago, basically. Most of the commercial flying after World War I was done to carry the mail. The government, who had been flying the mail up until that time, decided to open a contract to let private companies compete for the contracts to deliver U.S. mail. Mr. Boeing had a really good idea. He thought, if we can carry a couple passengers inside this airplane, we can charge a little less for the mail.